So I thought today I'd read to you a story called Clancy of the Overflow. It's written by a lawyer named Banjo Paterson. Do you guys know what lawyers do? Yeah, so before I was the mayor, I was a lawyer. So lawyers try and solve disputes. And so this lawyer, Banjo Paterson, he wrote this story about a century ago. He's much better known as a writer than a lawyer, but he was a very good lawyer. And in this story, he's a lawyer in Sydney, which is not like Hervey Bay. It's sort of dirty and dusty and busy. And he's writing to somebody called Clancy, effectively trying to collect a debt. And he's imagining how much better life is for Clancy than himself as a lawyer in Sydney. So this is Clancy of the Overflow by Banjo Paterson. I had written him a letter, which I had, for want of better knowledge, sent to where I had met him down the Lachlan years ago. He was shearing when I knew him, so I sent the letter to him, just on spec, addressed as follows, Clancy of the Overflow. And an answer came directed in a writing unexpected, and I think the same was written with a thumbnail dipped in tar. 'Twas his shearing mate who wrote it, and verbatim I will quote it. Clancy's gone to Queensland drovin', and we don't know where he are. In my wild erratic fancy, visions come to me of Clancy, gone a drovin' down the Cooper, where the western drovers go. As the stock are slowly stringing, Clancy rides behind them singing, for the drover's life has pleasures that the townsfolk never know. And the bush has friends to meet him, and their kindly voices greet him, in the murmur of the breezes and the river on its bars. And he sees the vision splendid of the sunlit plain extended, and at night the wondrous glory of the everlasting stars. I am sitting in my dingy little office where a stingy ray of sunlight struggles feebly down between the houses tall, and the fetid air and gritty of the dusty, dirty city through the open windows floating spreads its foulness over all. And in place of lowing cattle, I can hear the fiendish rattle of the tramways and the buses making hurry down the street. And the language uninviting of the gutter children fighting comes fitfully and faintly through the ceaseless tramp of feet. And the hurrying people daunt me, and their pallid faces haunt me as they shoulder one another in their rush and nervous haste, with their eager eyes and greedy, and their stunted forms and weedy, for townsfolk have no time to grow, they have no time to waste. And I somehow rather fancy that I'd like to change with Clancy, like to take a turn at droving where the seasons come and go, while he faced the round eternal of the cash book and the journal. But I doubt he'd suit the office, Clancy of the Overflow. So that story's really, it's about Banjo Paterson idealizing, the bush. The two famous poets of the time, Henry Lawson and Banjo Paterson, both wrote about the bush, and Henry Lawson was much more realistic. So this is sort of what you see, like the grass is always greener, with somebody really imagining how great it would be to be, in the bush where it's actually quite rough. So what kind of stories do you guys like? What's your favorite books? Yes?
Transformers.
Transformers, yeah?